Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
I am Brandy,
And I'm Richard.
and we are Emerge by Design. And I know that you have missed us. We have been in the adventure of life and um, being in every second of it, following our bodies into the places and spaces that are for us. And that did not lead us to a moon report. But here we are today.
Glad to be back.
Glad to be back for sure.
Talking about the full moon in Leo on February 12th.
February 12th. But before we do that, we wanted to invite you into this thing that we have been creating for you, this journey, this living your design, blossoming and unfolding into your chart. We have created a 9-week program that will dive into not only living your design, but embodying your design, taking it from the wisdom and the teaching in your brain into a full embodiment experiment or experience with the left brain yang and the right brain yin. And so we will put some more information and the website where you can check out more. So we wanted to invite you. We're excited. It starts in March, so almost.
Can't wait. Check it out.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So this full moon on Wednesday, let's share this chart. Let's see here. There we go. Okay.
All right. Well, let's give a little context to this full moon
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the lunar cycle that she is part of. 2 weeks ago, we had the new moon in Aquarius in gate 19, line 3, putting the polarity, the Earth, in its polarity in gate 33, line 3.
And remember, the new moon um, is the title of this chapter. It is the conversation that the sun was having with the moon, that when the moon turns and faces her light towards us, she is illuminating this story. And it is in gate 19.
Yeah, the chapter of the new moon. Yeah. The pressure gate in the root center, the pressure to need the emotional support of the other.
Yeah, the pressure to need food, sex, and territory, and how we connect with the other in our tribal ways in order to secure those needs. The sensitivity of even having a need in the first place, and how to be with another to get those needs met.
And then after the sun at the time of the new moon moved through gate 19, I love this part of the wheel over in Aquarius. We had the new moon here in gate 19. And then the next week we had the sun in gate 13, the gate of listening.
We did.
I really appreciate that gate. Listening, emotional listening, connected to the solar plexus. And the line 1 of gate 13, and the line 1 always speaks to the foundation of the archetype, is the line of empathy.
Yeah.
Listening with empathy. Empathy is one of the key tenets of having a successful emotional bonding.
And empathy is feeling with another. It's not just listening, or it's not just hearing, it's listening. It's allowing the frequency of emotions to permeate ourselves. This is gate 13.
Yes. And so then after the sun moved through gate 13, it entered gate 49 last week, where we will be at the time of the full moon in line 6.
And I love that story, how 19 brings sensitivity to the needs, 13 brings empathy and feeling, and then 49 brings the principles of emotions.
So we're just getting during this period of time, we're getting this strong emphasis to be alert and aware to how we are all dealing and coping with our emotional sensitivities within our relationships.
That's right. And what really is a need from the other, or what is the thing that we've been delegating our need to the other that we actually have within us in this gate 13. I think it's not just listening to the other, but it's listening to what emotional frequencies come up in me when I'm hearing the other. So I think that it's a beautiful opportunity to not just place the need on the other, but to feel what the needs are and how I relate to getting my needs met within myself and the other.
Absolutely. And that, as you're sharing that, it makes me think about in these dynamics, there can be so much expectation.
Right,
Right.
right, right. lots of expectation.
Yeah.
In the old tribal ways of doing things, we have been conditioned for hundreds of years to think that if I get a husband, if I get a wife, then this need, this need, this need are going to be taken care of by that other person.
Hmm.
And as we know, in this nine-centered relating, in this conscious, individuated coming together, is that I am responsible for my needs and he is responsible for his. And we get to have a negotiation, a communication about how those needs collectively get met, but
Hmm.
they don't get to get placed on the other
Hmm.
anymore.
It's always a work in progress,
Yeah.
and we're dealing with the solar plexus where the gate 49 is.
Hmm.
So there's always this um, leaning into life to have growth and development,
Yeah.
emotional character development.
Hmm.
And my goodness, as we look at that solar plexus in the body graph, there are 5 activations out of 7. So that's
Yeah.
also painting the frequency of this full moon to be quite emotional.
Yeah, to really get to know our emotions,
Mhm.
because that then leads to our needs, that plays with the pressure to be alive as a human being. Our emotions have been the dictator of that.
Mhm.
And we are being invited in these next few years. If you follow the human design system and you see to a T, what's going to happen is 19 and 49 are going to be adjusted. There's going to be a change in the way our needs are met.
Mhm.
And so I think that this is a beautiful precursor and opportunity for us to feel all the feels
Yeah.
that come along with letting go of delegating our needs to the other.
Hmm. And so, as we've been talking about this 1949 dynamic, and again, the sun being in 49.6 at the time of the full moon, the moon herself at the full moon being opposite the sun is in gate 4, line 6.
Hmm.
So, on the one sense, I just want to mention about the line 6 full moon. It's indicating that there could be a potential new truth or wisdom or role model way of learning and emotionally evolving.
Right. And gate 4 moves in its spectrum of consciousness from um, details and unknowing into this understanding, into forgiveness.
Mhm.
Because once the details are seen, so again, let's carry the story forward. We're talking about our needs, we're talking about our sensitivities, and we're talking about how we connect in tribe or in community with the other through our sensitivities. When we can now understand what they are, when we can break them apart and see them for what they are, we can have compassion for ourselves. And then once we land in the compassion for ourselves, because now we understand our own sensitivities, that allows a bigger viewpoint to have compassion and understanding for the other and their needs. So this really is really an invitation, it seems, to taking off our old way of thinking about how sensitive I'm supposed to be, what my needs are supposed to be, who's supposed to meet them, and understanding that for myself, which allows a greater expansive way for everyone else to be around me.
Mhm. Yeah, really, really like how you shared that.
Yeah, thanks.
So
So,
that's the framework.
uh-huh.
That's the scenario, I would say,
Yeah.
of this cycle that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
That full moon bringing us to some sort of, she's at the zenith of her illumination at the
Right.
time of these charts.
So I would journal about over the last couple weeks where I have had a need that wasn't met or that was met, and what my feelings were about that, and how I can create a more supportive and nurturing environment for myself and the other
Mhm.
to not only understand but to be in communion with our
Yeah,
needs.
yeah. And to ask myself, what is that possibly triggering inside of me?
Right.
Why might I find that? Why would that be hurtful to me?
Mm-hmm.
Even though someone else did, rather than the projection, right? It's easy to
Right.
point the finger in these situations.
It's easy to say this is what I feel and here's my opinion and I'm going to stand here. But what we're learning is that everyone has an opinion, and it creates the tapestry of human experience in which we can now um, write a story with
Mhm,
it.
mhm. Well, you mentioned that word opinion, so we want to look at some of the other planets' positions
Hmm.
and aspects.
Hmm.
And Venus happens to be in the gate of opinions, in gate 17 over
Yeah,
here.
yep.
So Venus being the planet of love, beauty, and harmony.
Harmony.
How do we find harmony within this new
Yeah,
understanding
yeah.
and Aries opinions that
Hmm.
Venus is in right now?
And so, what it's inviting us into is to not be staunchy about our opinions and try to force those opinions upon another to be able to meet our needs.
Mhm.
Really, it's asking for compassion to stand in your truth, your precise truth, but to understand that there is a precise truth for you and for me, and to find where we meet our needs in the middle of that.
Mhm, mhm, absolutely. So, as we look at some of the stronger aspects that we see in the astrological wheel, we want to look at Uranus at 23 degrees Taurus, is also in the gate 23 in the throat center. Now, Uranus is moving forward, turned forward just a few days back, has already passed through gate 23 moving forward once, turned retrograde for months, went backwards, and then stopped and stationed in gate 23 line 5, and is finally now moving forward. So whenever any of these planets do this retrograde phase, there's really something to uncover here.
Mm-hmm.
There's an emphasis in that regard, and here we're seeing the Uranian frequency bring an emphasis to the gate of assimilation.
So, if we continue to carry the story of what is my sensitive need, what do I need to be alive as a human being? Food, sex, and territory, of course, are the basics, but what else? What else am I sensitive to?
Mm,
And how do I get those needs met and understand that I have needs that are different from the other? Find our middle point, and then express our personal truth.
mhm,
And that personal truth can be different, uh, as you're saying, in this Uranian way, shocking and changeable. Again, with these line sixes that are present, it will be something that might not have been your truth before now,
mhm, mhm.
a new truth that gets to mutate your relationships and how you get your needs met.
Absolutely. And because Uranus is in what we call a T square to
Mm.
the sun, moon, full moon,
Mm-hmm.
um, T squares are a very dynamic energy. I think of heat, alchemy, conflict. There's something that wants to be resolved here.
Yeah.
It makes me think of growth and development through friction.
Psychology calls it triangulation.
Mhm.
When you're in a beef with somebody and then somebody else comes in and now there's this like, well, wait a second, there was
Yeah,
just two of us and now there's three of us.
right. And so when we look at this T square, Uranus is at the apex of the triangle. So in a sense, it's like the mediator.
Yeah.
Well, he's a powerful, unusual, shocking, out of nowhere, sudden frequency to
Hmm.
be mediating this, but it certainly is bringing the emphasis to this Gate 23 story, finding your individual truth and voice of expression within the sensitive dynamic of emotional relationships.
Right. So if we're talking about this as people, 49 is principled, is this is the way.
Mm.
And you get my love if you meet my needs, and you don't get my love if you don't meet my needs. And four is like, well, wait a second, there's a whole story to be told here. Let me understand you.
Yeah,
It's not so cut and dry. Don't cut off my head. There's more to this going
yeah.
on. And 23 comes in, and 23 can say, look, this is the way it's supposed to be. Get on board or not.
Hmm.
Or 23 can say, wait a second, guys, here's this new understanding, and here is the way I understand you want to meet your needs with your principles. Let's see how we can come together for a new mutative truth.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And as you're sharing that, I'm thinking about Mercury, who is still conjunct the sun. The exact conjunction had already passed by the time of the full moon, but at the full moon, Mercury is in gate 30,
Again, right next
wa-
to 49.
wanting to share and communicate the desires.
Mm-hmm. The desires, not the fantasies. I think 49 tempers that 30 in such a beautiful way, because 30 can just be this fantasy world of things that you never bring into material form.
Mhm.
But I think that this opportunity with 49 hanging out and 30 is the voice, the mercurial expression of what actually could be desired and brought into form.
Hmm. Hmm. Beautiful. Well, and we want to bring in another aspect. I don't, in my transit reports, bring up the planet Eris a lot, but I couldn't help it in
It's a
this
big
full.
deal this time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he.
Gee.
This is Eris here. This is the
Yeah.
glyph for Eris. In mythology, Eris is the sister of Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Eris as a planet is in the Kuiper Belt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the Plutonic world. Pluto is part of the Kuiper Belt. So it's a very farther outer
Mm-hmm.
world planet. So it can have that collective transmutative quality as a Kuiper Belt object. But in the mythology, being the sister of Mars,
Right.
carrying a very feminine yin Mars energy. She's actually often called the sower of
Of
discord.
discord and chaos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chaos. But I think the mythology is that she's bringing a higher frequency to the
Yeah.
discord, whereas Mars can just tear things down to tear it down with
Right.
his
In this
aggressive,
immaturity.
yeah, aggressive immaturity. Eris does it for a reason.
Right.
There's a meaning for this
Yeah.
disharmony. And so, yes, bringing it forward in this discussion because Eris is in what we call in astrology the point of Thales. It's forming a sextile to the opposition with the Aries sextile the sun, and then forming a trine with the other end of the full moon, a trine to the moon. So the idea of this aspect is that Aries holds as a key mediator
Mm-hmm.
in this polarity that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so, what can that mean? Well, because we're talking about the channel of archetype of sensitivity,
Right.
emotional needs and expectations, and how we're learning to have individual truth and have and be within relationship, there's a sense here that through the discord and frictional element of emotional connections,
Mm-hmm.
that the chaos can lead to the growth.
Yeah.
And I say growth because Eris doesn't get an activation in the body graph in the human design system, but it's always helpful to look where it is so we
Yeah.
can get the archetype, the archetypal frequency. Eris is in gate 42, which is called the gate of growth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's indicating that through this emotional discord, there's a significant Uranian shocking
Yeah.
truth that may be discovered.
I love this energy.
Mhm,
This is a energy that's close to my heart because the way that I see Eris is like a Kali energy almost, like
mhm,
the
mhm,
ability in her femininity to cause chaos,
mhm,
cause chaos. Everyone knows that their femininity, their emotionality is dark. It is something that we can't really pinpoint,
mhm,
that emotions flow from here to there without a lot of logic.
mhm,
But this emotional flowing from here to there is something that brings progress through chaos. So this invitation feels like a higher process of development through releasing our expectations of what this 1949 tribal agreement must be to allow the emotional depth and scariness, right?
mhm,
Eris is in the Kuiper belt with Pluto. That annotates darkness, the
mhm,
underworld, the something that we can't see, which we have been historically afraid of. But I think Eris is inviting us to release our expectations about what it means to be chaotic
mhm.
and to allow the chaos to let the truth rise to the surface
Yeah.
and see what's really good for us all in that
Mhm.
42, releasing the expectations, allowing it to the progress to show us what it's supposed to show us.
Yeah, yeah. I love that well, we're speaking of progress. Well, we're one thing, as we're at the 42 here, we want to look at we have a gate 53
In
activation.
Mars.
Yeah, which is Mars
In
in
Mars.
Cancer,
Right.
still retrograde. So this is bringing the concept of the family, the
Mm-hmm.
sign of
Yeah.
Cancer. Again, another sensitive sign, very
Yeah.
sensitive, emotional, inner world, the world of Cancer. And Mars is not so comfortable here.
Yeah.
Moving retrograde, there can be a sense of a very emotionally reactive energy.
Yeah.
It could be very passive aggressive retrograde in Cancer.
Very, very immature masculine. And as we can see in the world around us, this immaturity, this masculine, pardon me, expression of everything going out and getting what it wants is reaching ahead of we can't do this way anymore.
Right.
There has to be something different allowed in the connection, in the chemistry, in the watery world of Cancer, something else allowed. And I think Eris is giving us the opportunity to see the chaos in the world around us and to anchor ourselves in our principled needs to be able to support, release the expectations of what we've seen. We can see how what we thought should be is not this way,
Right.
and will probably never be that way again,
Yeah.
ever.
Right.
This chaos is inviting us to find comfortability in our self-expression, in
Mhm.
our needs, in our personal empathic assimilation of truth.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And so that Mars in the body graph in gate 53, this is the root pressure to start a new cycle of emotional development. That's called the channel of maturation, a design of balanced growth and
Mm-hmm.
development. So we have brother and sister, Mars and Eris, in this new emotional cycle of development. And then we have the stream from 41 all the way to 35.
Mm-hmm.
Now in 35, we have Jupiter. And Jupiter is also, after quite a while of being in retrograde and
Yeah.
having moved all the way through gate 35 going forward, moved backwards through gate 35, is now moving forward the third time. And that is significant
Mm-hmm.
that the planet of growth, expansion, and abundance is moving forward with that third time maturity in that
Mm-hmm.
sense through the archetype of emotional experience and progress.
It's just such a beautiful coming together of energies. It's starting a new cycle of development with 41, the ability to bring something new into existence that we have fantasized or desired. We have been through all of these emotional experiences with 36 and 35, and now we can speak to our opinions, but then release them and understand that everybody's got one,
Hmm.
and be able to join each other in a compassionate understanding in four. Like
Hmm.
this whole beautiful
Yeah.
ribbon of energy.
And the one more aspect that I'd love to layer in there for everything that we're looking at is that in the astrological wheel, Mars in that retrograde in gate 53 is forming a trine to Saturn, and Saturn is in gate 22,
Yeah.
individual emotional expression. So when we think about Saturn, the planet of discipline, perseverance, life lessons, limitation, and eventual wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
also moving through gate 22 for the third time after having gone forward and then backward and now the third time.
Mm-hmm.
So these planets that I keep mentioning that are finally moving forward, it is bringing a sense of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
They've retread this ground three times, and with the planet of wisdom passing through gate 22, emotional grace and individual expression within social settings also ties into our story about
Mm-hmm.
how do I get to relate with my truth of my emotions and exist in harmony with the truth of your emotions.
And I think Neptune brings it home in 25,
Hmm.
or can, be an allowance, right? It's not a key because we're not looking to it and saying, "Oh, I'm going to use this as a key in Neptune," but we are going to see what love sees.
Yeah, yeah, great opportunity for that,
Yeah.
and that actually is kind of what that channel of initiation here. Chiron is also moving forward after having gone through 51, back through 51, is moving forward through 51 the
Right.
third time. So this triggering or wounding is
Mm-hmm.
what is sort of the point of all this.
Right.
How have I been hurt? How am I evolving? What have I been invited to be initiated into my higher sense of self
Right.
with emotional wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
uh, empathetic listening,
Yeah.
both physical
And
and through
hearing.
hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how am I doing in this progress of growth and maturity in
Mm-hmm.
relationship with the sensitive needs with others?
And I think when we release that expectation in gate four of what we must see from our opinions,
Mm-hmm.
then we can have the opportunity for Neptune to let us see through the veil of universal purpose,
Mm-hmm.
of why have we been in the dark depths. I love this 25 and 51 so much because it's initiation into our higher self, which sounds great, but what that is living in the dark. It's
Mm-hmm.
bringing the dark forward. And so with Neptune here and 51 now moving forward again, we get to see what love sees since we've been in the dark,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of our own emotional truth
Yeah.
and direction and this new progress,
Yeah.
and being able to really know what our needs are. I mean, we work with people all the time, and we've really seen a lot of reevaluation in the, man, this is the way that it has been, but gosh, I have different needs now, and becoming aware of their own needs and seeing how that fits in the picture of love.
Mm-hmm. quite a full moon we're
Quite a
talking
full moon.
about. And to remember that after this full moon, we're going to have 2 weeks of the waning phase.
Right. Of
Uh,
acclimation.
yeah, to really integrate what's
Mhm.
been stirred up
Mhm.
during this emotional lunar cycle, to go to the third quarter moon a week from now,
Mhm.
to take action or agency, to look at boundaries,
Mhm.
to release what's no longer serving us,
Mhm.
to incorporate more self-nourishing, both personally and
Mhm.
within the
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, so the opportunity here during this full moon is really to um, come in and harvest, do some harvesting of what you've been sitting in for the last couple of weeks. What emotional truths have been scratching you in some kind of way? What experiences have you had that you have found some truth in
Mhm.
and you now understand something in a greater or different way? Collect all of that, harvest it, put
Yeah.
it in a bag. We're not doing anything with it. We're just putting our eyes on it and allowing it to exist in front of us in the basket.
Yeah.
And then whatever alchemy needs to take place will take place over the next couple weeks, but allow all of that fullness to be
Mhm.
here.
To be grateful for the hard-earned wisdom of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And maybe you're not seeing yourself as wise yet. Maybe you're still seeing yourself as full.
Yeah.
Maybe it still feels very full.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm saying let it put it all in the basket and let it be there. And then you will see the wisdom that
Mhm.
lies with all of that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Happy full moon.
Yeah. Happy full
Happy
moon.
full moon. Um, these moons, again, we keep talking about why are they important? In human design, a lot of people say follow your strategy and authority and you don't need to follow the transits. And that's absolutely true. These transits mean nothing if you're not connected to the wisdom of your body.
Mhm.
But when you are connected to the wisdom of your body, we can kind of play the game. And playing the game, being with my wisdom of my body, moving into the places and spaces that are for me, we can see what's being asked of us
Mhm.
when we look at the transits. And these transits, when we follow the moon, the reason I love to be with the moon is because this is our emotional intelligence. These are the opportunities that we have been given to evolve our emotional intelligence to be more coherent and aligned with our fractal, with what we are here to do, with
Mhm.
being purposeful with our allies. And without emotional maturity, without being able to stay centered in our nervous system, we are not able to offer the fullness of our design.
Mhm.
We are not able to hear the wisdom of our body in the deep ways that we are needing to hear it moving forward in this time of wild transition.
Mhm. Wow, powerful. Powerful.
Yay. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
So join us in Awaken.
Mhm.
Again, we'll put the link here, but join us for Awaken. It will be an experience in living your design like you've never experienced before. We hope to bring a left and right brain integrative approach to living your design, to knowing this wisdom, into having experiences of feeling it live in your body, and then have you articulate from your perspective what your experience is like. Uh,
Okay.
all right.
Well,
See you next time.
thank you.
See you next time.